Hey everyone, it's Marshall Atkinson. Thank you so much for watching. And today I'm really happy to have my good friend Jay Busselle and on the show. And what we're going to be doing is talking with him about branding. And so there's a big difference between, I think, branding and marketing, and so we want to kind of unveil those kind of tips and tricks and best practices. And that's what the discussion is going to be about today. And it's your opportunity to ask some questions. So we have some prepared stuff that we're going to go through. But, of course, this is live on Facebook, which means that if you're watching, you can put your comment or question into the chat, right? And then we can comment or use that as the basis for discussion. So please, please, please write whatever your question is in the questions, and that way we can use them. And then also later, if you're watching this as a recording, we'd love to find out who watched. So just put your name or shop or whatever in there so we can just see who you are. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and welcome, Jay, to the interview, I guess, right?
Hey, thanks, Marshall. Thanks for having me. And for anybody who's tuned in besides my mom, I'm excited.
Is your mom really watching?
Maybe. I don't know. Hi, Mom,
okay.
In case she is.
Yeah, great. Right. So, Jay, what have you been working on lately?
Listen, I've been busy. I've been working on helping Equipment Zone stay relevant and visible. We have produced, I want to say this morning was our 13th webinar training in the last 9 weeks. So as the coronavirus pandemic started to creep into our worlds, we quickly shifted some of our energy to training, trying to give value. So Terry Combs, myself, Jeff Morgenthaler, a couple of our techs, and then we've had special guests on. We've had live, product demonstrations. So we've been busy, training, trying to give value, trying to stay relevant, trying to help people grow their businesses. And you would be surprised, except I know, Marshall, you would not be surprised, that people are still investing in their businesses. They're still trying to figure out how to move forward. And we have several new customers in the last 6 weeks because, they saw what we were doing and they realized now's a perfect time to get everything dialed in and be a better decorator and take time, to invest in that. So keep them busy.
That's awesome. I've talked to so many shops over the past couple of weeks, and a lot of people are really digging into their processes and mapping things out. And they've always wanted to do X, water-based printing, or they wanted to do direct to screen or direct, DTG or whatever. And they're using this opportunity to learn about that, to master the process. And then that way, when we emerge from the pandemic event, they already know what to do and they've dialed that in. And they're rocking and rolling. And so this is a very common thing, actually, I think.
And a lot of folks who were prepared to the point that was possible and had a really good year last year, and January was kicking ass for them too. There were a lot of folks that were in a cash positive position that saw an opportunity and are taking advantage of that opportunity. Now, not everybody's in that boat, and I get that. But, we were reaching out to a few folks who are ready to make an investment, and they want to figure out, part of their shift and part of hitting that reset button is what else am I going to do? And how am I going to accomplish that after the fact?
Sure. So we got some people who joined us.
Great. Anybody I know?
Yeah.
Eric Campbell.
That guy. And my good buddy Daryl says your mom says hi.
Oh, good.
Whatever that means. Is he taunting you? I don't know.
Probably. Let's not get carried away now.
So anyway, again, we're going to get into some questions in 2 seconds here. Please, if you're watching, write your question in. Jay knows everything about branding. So we're going to dig into some stuff. We want to get these questions. We want to help you. That's the purpose of this, is to help, not just to listen to Jay pontificate, right? Yeah. We want to be helping you with stuff. So get those questions in. All right. So let's get ready for our first one. You ready to go?
Fire it away.
Okay, here you go. This is it. What's the number one thing most small businesses get wrong in terms of their branding? So what are they doing wrong, Jay?
Well, where do I start? How much time do we have, Marshall?
We have about an hour.
Okay, so let's think about this. I think that answer is different for every business because it depends on where they are. Are they a brand new startup? Do they have 3 or 4 years in? Are they 10 years in? So I'm going to answer that as if it's everybody because I still think this would apply, but there might be some nuances to the answer. So let's talk about it in terms of if they would do this thing first, they would avoid a lot of drama later. And I know as adults, we all understand that, but it's not always easy to actually apply. So my answer to this question is they don't have a plan and they don't have a system. The number one mistake they make is that they're lacking that. And so they started their business because they got excited. They fell into apparel decoration somehow. We don't know how they got here. They were snookered into buying some equipment, not really. And then they gravitate towards designing a logo and just saying, you know, these physical assets, they want to get into a logo. They want to work on their website. And honestly, those are not the first two things that they should start with as it relates to branding. So really, it starts with your company's purpose. And this is super tough, especially for people that are new in that new to 3, 4, 5 years area. Because if you've already started and you've been in business for a couple of years, you're like, well, what is my purpose? I thought I was just pulling a squeegee and pounding out T-shirts. I don't know.
Right.
So it's hard for some folks to step back and say, what do I stand for? What is the thing I want, you know, everyone to know about me? And so I kind of work from a particular sentence, and this will help clarify this. Imagine that we could answer this, and the perfect statement for this is, the purpose of my business is to solve the following problem for the following people. If you could just start there, that would help you flesh out, however you want to say that, the purpose of your business. So we want to help people, and Marshall, I'm trying to help people with this concept of tell them how you solve the following problem in that specific audience. So, you know, another way to look at this is we eliminate the following fill in the blank challenge for the following fill in the blank customer. If you could just start there, that will help you with your positioning and that will help you with your branding.
That's great. That's great. And to further kind of just dig into that, so I've taught some marketing classes, and here's how I defined the difference between marketing and branding. Marketing is any act that creates a customer. So if you're creating a customer that's buying from you, that's marketing. Branding is creating the emotional link from you to your customer. That's what branding is. It's about that emotion they feel when they think of you. Is it joy? Is it, you know, is it anger? Right? What is that link? What is that emotional link? That's all about your brand. And here's what it's not. Branding, remember this, and I know you're going to say this. So
I'm going to write this down. Wait.
It's not your logo.
Let me get a piece of paper. Wait, Marshall said branding is not my logo. Okay.
Branding is not your logo. Branding is emotional link.
We're on the same page there, my brother. I like to put it in terms of acronyms. We all here in Arizona understand the importance of sunscreen, and typically you measure sunscreen in SPF factor, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
For this ginger, you know, I don't want to have the freckle fest, so I'm going to lather on some sunscreen. So if you have sunscreen, it's SPF, and I think of SPF as my style, my promise, and the feeling. So like you said, that emotional feeling.
I like that.
That to me is branding, and you need to lather that branding just like you would sunscreen all over. And I mean all over. So it happens way early on in the funnel and all the way through to marketing, all the way through to sales, all the way after sales, after the post sale into service. You're still branding. So style, you know, promise, feeling, SPF. If we can kind of work off that together, I think a lot of folks can apply that at any point along that spectrum. Okay,
so no questions from everybody watching. So don't forget, you can write your question in. We want Jay to help you out. We got one.
Okay.
Brian says, how do you get a graphic designer to say your logo is not branding?
Well, I think that's a great question. How did I get my graphic designer, or how would I? So either way,
well, he knows I'm a designer.
Yeah. Well, how did you do it? Let's throw this to you, Marshall. What was your first?
I don't know. I read 20 books by Seth Godin.
Perfect. Well, clearly a graphic designer, that's one of the things that they are going to focus on. And they would be, in my estimation, a really important tool in this toolbox of branding. And clearly I need them, especially if that's not my strong suit. But how I would talk to them and how I would sit down with them and meet with them and explain, in order to get a killer kick-ass logo, I want to make sure that I am authentic and that I can convey my style to the right audience. And if I don't know what my style is, well, then neither will my graphic designer. Right. And if I can't kind of start to pivot off of a few key words about purpose and about why I'm here and the problems I solve, then it's going to be really hard for a designer to just kind of pop something out of nothing. Also, I want my designer to have a really clear picture of who my audience is, because the hard part for most small business owners is to remember this: your logo isn't even for you. If you've fallen in love with your logo, but your audience can't stand it, that's an epic fail. So you might think it's killer, but everybody you're trying to do business with, it's like you sprayed out some mosquito repellent and they're like, ugh, I'm not interested in that guy.
Right. Just imagine if a type foundry, their logo was done in bleeding cowboys.
Classic. Right?
Right. So, hey, this is a great segue to this question, which is, what is the purpose of a branding guide or a style guide? What are we doing with these, Jay?
I thought you'd never ask, Marshall. I don't know who came up with that question, but that is good. That is a good one. I think
you did.
I might have helped. Listen, there's been a lot of great discussion about branding guides and style guides. I've got a short answer and a long answer. Maybe for this special audience, I'm going to try to land it right in the middle. So the purpose of a branding guide or a style guide is to make sure that you have some sort of a foundation, a working document that provides guidelines. It's going to give some instructions on how your brand should be presented from both a graphical perspective as well as a written perspective. So I like to think of a branding guide or a style guide as the instructions, the instruction manual. This is my plan, and this is how I'm going to engage my audience. So once you have a style guide or a branding guide, you then can share that with your staff internally, everybody that's on your team. But you can also start to position it outwardly and help an audience, a prospect, understand what you stand for, what you're about, why you're doing what you do. And clearly, some of those steps that are in there are going to be the do's and don'ts of your logo. You're going to have things like tone and voice. You're going to have a lot of, it's more than just what to do with my logo. It really does help set the boundaries of how you want the rest of the world to perceive you. And it's one of the most creative things you could work on. And it's one of the most satisfying things if you really dig into it, because you really, really have to kind of sit there and ponder on some hard questions like, why am I doing this? Who cares? And then you get into the graphics, which are always fun. Then you can get into your website and your, all the icons and the symbols, and you can peel back so many fun layers. It's just hard for small business owners to not kind of fast forward into website logos and graphic design. So
right. Well, we're creative people, Jay. That's where we hang our hat.
Yep.
And, I think Eric has a good comment here, which is, any action you take that is revealed to a customer becomes your brand. If you don't act from who you are and why you were there, it's hard to maintain. Actions flow from culture and purpose.
Yeah, that's awesome, Eric. That money. I love that.
And then we got a Mike Chong thing. Brand people really anal. If I'm more anal, will that increase my on-brandness? Yes. So let me tell you, I've done how many millions of shirts I've printed over the years for McDonald's, right? Right. And if you're not exactly 123 gold and 186 red, they flip out, right? Because they're looking. They've got the Pantone book. It doesn't matter what the shirt color is. And the reason for that is because that golden arch is instantly recognizable, and they need to be on brand. And
100%, 100% agree with you. And Mike, another way to look at this is rather than think about it through the perspective of the word anal, which might conjure up a whole set of things we don't want to talk about on this, is to think about the perspective of alignment. You want everything to be aligned properly so that it's consistent. And I know it sometimes doesn't feel that important because we're not McDonald's, right? So, but don't blow it off, because now is your chance. And people like us, like Marshall, like Mike, like Eric, we're responsible. We're the brand ambassadors for other people. So remember when I said I was going to give you the medium answer to this question, what's the purpose of the branding guide or the style guide? The second biggest reason is that you have your shit together and you have evidence as you move through the marketplace. So if Mike Chong has a killer branding guide, he can position that as a sales tool. He could literally go out and prospect and say, one of the first questions, by the way, I would ask is, where's your branding guide? And it's a loaded question, and I ask it on purpose so that it brings up the friction. And they're like, huh? What? Yeah. If I were a CPA and I walked in here, I'd be asking for cash flow statements and profit and loss sheets. If I were a business coach, I'd be asking for a mission statement or a business plan, right?
Right.
Well, if I'm your branding guy, and I am, then I'm going to be asking you for your branding guide. Where's your style guide?
Yeah. And it's a loaded question because you know that they don't have one.
Exactly, which is my point, because then I can say, well, here's what one looks like. It's mine. And over the course of our relationship, I want to help you build yours out because your brand is critical. And if we can get this recipe just right, it's just like the perfect taco, man. People are like going to crave it. You're going to have raving fans.
Right.
So that's why I think this branding guide concept is such a big deal. It's not just to have your P's and Q's, which is short for pints and quarts. If you talk to Terry Combs, he'll tell you about that. He knows a little something about those pints and those quarts. But it's also about leverage. It gives you an actual, I think, a great conversation starter for marketing purposes when you're faced with this opportunity, is to say, hey, so where's your style guide? And you know that 9 out of 10 people are going to say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. And so if we just think about, Jay, you spoke at the first shirt lab we had in Columbus.
Yes, I did. Thank you for having me.
And what did I do? I created a template for all the presentations. So even though all the content was different, every single presentation flowed with, continuous, like it looked a certain way. And that was completely on purpose, because I didn't want the disjointedness of all these different ideas with different fonts and different colors and different logos. I wanted everything to be smooth and consistent. And that was, done on purpose, just because that's exactly what we wanted. And so, and I provided that, so it was a frictionless experience for the speaker, right?
It worked out really well. And there were only a few speakers who went off, that probably fought you on that. The super hyper creative ones are, they've got their reasons, but the reality and the reasons that you presented are true,
right?
100% true, because it helps create a better experience. And there's another buzzword we hear, but that's the truth, is it isn't disjointed. And the opposite of disjointed is another word I've already used to replace Mike Chong's word, which is alignment. Having that consistent alignment helps big time.
Yeah. And then what the secret there was the fact that even though they did it their way, is I changed it the way I wanted to do it. And then that's what was up on the screen. All right. We got some questions here. So Jay says, where can I find resources on how to build a branding guide? Daryl, I bet Jay's got some resources for you. We'll get to that later.
We will indeed. Thank you for asking that question, Daryl.
And then Eric says, I could have sworn I saw someone trying to help everyone get a better branding guide together. Hold on. Don't jump ahead, Eric.
No. That's great. Eric, thank you. I need all the help I can get.
Yeah.
Daryl, yes, you could go to that website that Eric Campbell put out. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
All right. So next question is, there's been a lot of talk in the last few years about the word story. How important is it to tell a story, and how does it apply to customers? And I'm thinking of one book more than anything.
100%. If you have not read Donald Miller's book about story branding and that whole experience and worked through the processes, as a small business owner, I would strongly, strongly encourage you and recommend you do that. But the reality is that the word story, the concept of storytelling, obviously was around a long time before Don and his book. But it's an important concept. And so I think the thing to remember is there's two parts to this. There's my story as the business owner and our story as a team. So if it's a small team of 2 or 3, if it's a big team of 200 or 300, we have a story. That's our internal story. That's partly our culture, but let's stick with the word story. And then there's another story, which is kind of externally pointed. And that's how we help tell our world to the customer in a way that is a story that they can remember. So I'll get to that in a minute, but let's start with us first. If you're in business, you need a story. You need a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of your story. You need to keep it short. Your story should be a little bit blend of you, your personality, your life, and your business, because people want to remember you. What journey did you go on to get to this point? Why did you start this business? Those are some of the things that you're going to have in your story. I really like it if you've overcome some struggles, because people really want to know, wow, this is important and is meaningful to Marshall. He's overcome these hurdles and look at where he is today. And I like that. And people resonate with that. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to position yourself to say to the audience, hey, this is why we're special and rare and why my staff and I are uniquely qualified. That's the story you're trying to tell as a team, as a company, okay? But now you need to bridge out and transition away from you, because this is a huge mistake. If we constantly put that spotlight on us, eventually people don't care. They're like, okay, enough, blah, 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 Jay, we get it, tacos, woohoo. You know, you have to position away from this, and you have to be able to now include someone, a prospect, a customer into the story. And this is where books like The Story Branding and others and other authors have been talking about this for a long time. I have a really good mentor. Her name is Ann Handley, and she has the world's greatest e-newsletter called Anarchy, A-N-N for her first name, Anarchy. She pops it out twice a month.
I'm writing it down.
It always comes out on Sundays. That's the day that she's chosen to deliver it. She's written a book. If you've ever heard of marketing profs, if you don't know who marketing profs are, that's a whole company specifically with tons of tools to help marketers, but it would help every business that's listening right now. But Ann Handley is another person that knows a lot about story and how to build this customer's journey into it. Another person that you might have a little bit more access to that you may know about is Bobby Lehue. Bobby is from our industry on the promotional product side.
Is that spelled right?
Yes, it is. And I'm sorry I wasn't prepared with the exact website, but I think if you go to Marketing Profs or go to annhandley.com, either one of those, Google it, look for her newsletter and subscribe. You'll love it. She's a writer and a marketer, and she does a fabulous job of helping us tell a better story, because that bridge has to eventually deal with them. Nobody's going to care about our story for too long. That's why I said short story, 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs. That's good. Eventually we have to transition. We have to reposition ourselves as the guide, G-U-I-D-E, and then help focus that on how we help that prospect or that customer become the hero of their story in their journey. So it's not difficult. A lot of people have written a lot of really important stuff, way better than I ever would. But you typically have a problem or a challenge, how you as the guide are going to help that hero overcome that problem or challenge. You help craft the plan. You help bring the action. You celebrate success together. And then there's a big transformation. That's typically how the story flows. So to summarize, Marshall, have a short story about you, but quickly transition into a story about them, how you're going to help that audience, that prospect, get over their challenge. You're going to present some kind of a plan, some kind of a call to action, and then you're going to present that transformation.
Yeah, so that's really good stuff. I wonder how many people watching right now have actually written out their SB7 framework. And so if you have, type a comment in and let us know. And let's get to some of the things that people have been writing. Allie says, Jay's style guide is amazing. Thank you.
Allie. I have one raving fan. Woo!
Eric says, when I teach embroiders to digitize and design, I always suggest that they work on their own branding and self-directed projects. Creating something spectacular in your sample kit or your own branding really can help you be recognized as a subject matter expert. That's awesome, Eric. Good job.
Good stuff.
And then Dan the man says, I caught the second reason I came in late. If I were to guess somewhere in there is a list of important reasons for a branding guide, is so that not only can keep things cohesive internally, but also for those that maybe utilize that branding guide externally. Correct. For example, freelance artists doing product art or collateral. What was the first reason mentioned?
Boy, I don't know if I can rewind myself.
You have to go back and watch, Dan. Sorry.
But Dan brought up something really important that maybe we could touch on for a second, which was, first of all, you don't have to buy anything from me. I'm not here to sell you something. I'm not trying to pitch you something. If it makes sense and you want to, great. The offer is there and you can find out on the website. But you can pump in your information, just your name and an email address, and I'll give you an overview of the style guide that I've created that people are buying. And it will lay out the 9 steps that I've put together. That will help you walk through this process with a graphic designer, with your team, with all of those key stakeholders that are going to help your story grow and help your business grow. So do that first. It's free. I'm trying to build a little community of branding freaks like me that are in the promo space, the apparel space. We even catch a few sign people every now and then. And from time to time, we'll let embroiderers in too. And I know that'll make it happy.
Right. So, Eric, I guess he's our second producer here.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. You're really stepping in. I think Marshall's going to have to owe you a few tacos.
And then Allie, she's done her SB7, and Dan goes, my SB what? You have to read a story brand by Donald Miller to know what we're talking about, Dan. So join the Allie's book reading club on Facebook, and you'll see it's on everybody's list.
100%.
And then our favorite Tennessean, Bill Petrie, says, Jay, why do so many people claim to like hard shell tacos when we all know that the soft flour kind are superior?
Oh, Bill, I'm so glad you're here. That just made my day.
Well, he's always one to poke the tiger, isn't he?
So listen, let's set the record straight right here, right now. The taco thing, yes, it's part of my culture. It's part of my branding. It's what people sometimes remember me for, and I'm totally cool with that. And to answer Bill's question, the correct answer is both. You need to consume both crunchy tacos and soft tacos, both flour and corn. So there you go. That solves all the problems.
And it's better if it's in the same meal.
You can do well, yes. You're in charge of that plate, Bill, so you take charge.
Right. And then
can I share one more thing? One more thing about tacos? Because, we live in a world of face masks now. How's that?
That's great.
Does that look okay?
That looks good. Black's your color.
Black is my color. Black is the new taco.
By the way, Bill says wrong.
Oh, come on, man.
All right, we got Alan watching. Hey, guys. Hey, Alan.
What's up, Alan?
Let's get to the last question here. Where is it? What is one of your favorite parts of branding?
That's actually a tough question. I think because it's changed. I used to be kind of that logo nerd, really dive deep into that kind of, spacing and it's evolved for me. So now, because I've taken a little bit more serious pursuit of creating a tangible product, helping people in our world, promotional product folks, sign folks, apparel folks, we're in a branding, marketing rich world. And so often we just kind of fumble. And so that was the genesis for me creating the style guide. I call it your style guide, by the way. But so as I started working through that process a couple of years ago, and by the way, I want to give you some credit, Marshall. You really pushed me to do that. And Shirt Lab in Columbus was one of the kind of the peak of, okay, well, this is real. I'm really doing this. Was this idea of a manifesto. I just love that word, manifesto. It's just macho. And it really, all it is it's an internal story. It's that 2 or 3 paragraphs of here's what we stand for. Here's where we're going to, drop our flag and stake it in the ground. And this is us and this is who we are. And here's why we're special and here's why we're unique. But what I've seen over the last couple of years is I've seen a lot of really, really cool examples of people turning that manifesto externally out to the world to let them know these are the things that we believe in. These are our standards. These are our, this is our purpose. So I think that's become my favorite part is helping businesses that have already started the journey. They're 2 years in, they're 4 years in, they're 10 years in. They have that, oh shit moment. I could do a whole lot better with my branding. I don't care where you start, to be honest, as long as you would start. Pick up my style guide. There's 9 steps. Try one of them. Any one of them are going to help you be a better business owner. It's going to help you on that journey. But I find that helping an existing business owner kind of rediscover their why, rediscover their passion, it's changed. Think about it, Marshall. Think about the business that you used to manage. When I first met you, you were like the top dog managing millions of impressions a year. And I can't remember the company. It was at Minnesota or Minneapolis.
It was in Wisconsin. It's called Visual Impressions.
Sorry, I totally.
They're an awesome company.
Okay, they are an awesome company. But where they were when they started, where they were when you showed up, and where they were after you left, that's a whole story arc, isn't it?
Yep.
They probably added new equipment. They've had new customers. They had new embellishment techniques and design techniques. So that's why this idea of a evolving story is okay. Your manifesto might change a little bit. Your journey is going to continue on, and where you were 3 years ago is not the same place you are today. And that's cool, but just keep your eye on this. That's why that branding is constantly something that you should work on. And right now, a lot of us have a little extra time on our hands. It's a great time to polish up your branding. It's a great time to think about all of those little steps, all of those tiny little nuances. Things in our world that seem small that could have a huge impact. Like, for example, a simple teeny one. Could we get branded tape, branded boxes, branded packaging, branded tissue and wrap paper in our industry? That would be easy for us to find, right? But how many apparel decorators take that same Gildan box, that same Next Level box, that same whatever box, take them out, print them, decorate them, put them back in, and drop that off at their customer? I just don't. It's like, come on, man. You were this close. A couple of little steps.
Right. Well, it just depends on where you are in your journey, I think. But when we think about branding, it's always about what do you want your customer to be thinking.
Exactly. Right? And at the critical moment of delivering your final goods, it should be like a celebration. It should be like this, like we did it. We kicked ass. Everything's on brand. Everything's on point, delivered on time. And it should be like a mini celebration. And instead, it's a crumpled up brown box that went from China to Atlanta to Phoenix into my shop, went around a carousel a few times, back into the box, and dropped it off at my client.
Right. Hey, we have some great comments here. Allie says, I've also answered the questions in Jay's 9-step style guide. It changed the way I market. I shared the skeleton with my networking group this week, and now 20 business owners think I'm a guru and want to use YSW for their branded merchandise. Jay made me look really smart. So wear your spirit warehouse is what that means, by the way. And Carolyn says, how can I wrangle a creative shit show of a person? How does one brand do creative energy?
Wait. I got to read this again. How can I wrangle a creative shit show?
I think she's talking about herself, Jay.
That's funny. How
So,
does one brand?
how do you wrangle? So what do you? So what is your why? Simon Sinek. Start with your why is a really great place to start. For me and everything I do, it comes back to my core values, right? So I've got 5 core values. It's all about different things, and so it's one of these deals where I want to be doing education and human to human and best practices and some other things, right? So Carolyn, what are you about, right? What is your main thing? Right. And you don't have to be uber professional if that's not your personality. If you're fun and energetic, right, be fun and energetic. It's fine. Right. So because you are what you attract. Right. So, that's kind of what we want out of branding is just aligning our customers with our business. And we're all on the same page. We're all doing what we need to be doing. And, and just follow Jay's tips.
Well, it's a great point. I love what you said about your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
That concept of that's why I specifically chose the word style guide rather than branding guide, even though that's what it is. I wanted people to really focus in on their style. We all have one. Some of them are not awesome. Some of them are goofy and crazy. Sometimes we feel like it's a shit show, but you know what? That's your style. And yes, sometimes we can work. Right now is a good time to do that. To polish that up a little bit. But if you were just thinking about it from a perspective of, let's say, websites, this comes up all the time. Do I want a rustic website or do I want a more modern website? Well, think about what you're asking. You're saying, okay, what's going to reinforce my brand and my style best and help carry the message forward? So if everything else you've done is modern, and then some amazing designer is trying to convince you into a rustic look, it's a misfire, no matter how good it is.
Well, unless Jay, that designer is going, well, your audience is a bunch of cowboys.
Well,
and you're trying to be neo-retro.
Right. And I should know that.
Art Deco's not working with the cowboy crowd, right?
And I should know that.
It should be reflective of your customers. That should be in the forefront of your thinking is your customers.
100% agree. 100%. Yeah, I think that's really important. Also, just if I move forward a couple and we think about that style, don't forget about your voice, your tone, and your language. So often we put a huge emphasis on the graphical style, but I started off with the style guide thinking also through the written style. The written word has never been more important and never been more powerful than it is right now. So how you use that language and how that flows through and meshes well with your style. And back to what you said earlier, Marshall, about your why. Does it tie? Can you see the common touch points so that other people, when they hear you or when they read something, they pick up on that? It's again, alignment and clarity and consistency.
Yeah, if you think about your company as a person, it's their voice, it's their personality, it's how they're being perceived by somebody else. Because our customers view the company as, you view your cable company one way, and you might view Baskin Robbins a completely different way. Or name your company, right? So how do we think about those? What are the audible or visual or cues that we get when we do anything, right? This is all about your voice. This is why there's, you see a lot of new startup companies and they try to have this funky vibe, because they're trying to differentiate themselves from the more stable, professional, everything's blue, You know what I mean?
Right.
So, that's why people go to that extreme, where instead of that, they're choosing bright yellow and black as their colors because they know those are going to really pop.
Yeah,
right?
They're going to stand
want to
out.
have that vibe and that energy.
Hey, something just popped into my mind while you said that. I've got 2 examples. One that's a little more industry specific. If you're genuinely interested in finding examples of style guides, one in our industry that I can send you is from Printing United. They have an excellent style guide or branding guide. As many of us have remember, SGIA, formerly SGIA, is now Printing United. That's not available to the public because they just the way they have it positioned, but they gave me positioning and permission to share with you a link so that if you want that, email me and I'll be happy to send you the link so that you could check out the Printing United Style Guide or Branding Guide. But the most comprehensive style guide and the best examples I've ever seen in terms of depth, clarity, alignment, and consistency ever is Uber. Uber has, without a doubt, the best I've ever seen. It's like if you want to study branding and branding guides, this is your Bible. So I have that link. It's brand.uber.com and then a whole bunch of other stuff, brand.uber.com. But I'll send you the link if you want to email me that too. But you could literally spend a few days. It is so deep. They have literally thought of everything. And don't forget, Uber's a multinational company. So they have to be able to, they have translation issues. So they really do know who their audience is and they focus in. It's impressive. It's deep. It might bore some of you. I get it. But if you're a branding nerd like me, this is the Bible. It's the best I've ever seen and it's free. They share that out on their website because they want all of their partners in the rest of the world to get their brand right.
Yeah, is it true that Uber means where is that guy in another language?
Yeah, I think it's in German.
All right, so we got some comments here. Eric says communication is the key.
100%.
And anyone who hasn't seen how voice can change a following, go look up the Wendy's Twitter account. Getting that salty isn't for everyone, but a strong voice can draw people. And Eric's really, exactly right. So
yeah, Eric, you really nailed it. That's great.
All right,
great
we got like 5 minutes left, so let's talk about your book. Okay, so where is that? Here it is. So let's talk about that real quick. And this is the book that Jay wrote. So Jay, why don't you talk about that real quick and what is actually at jbusselle.com?
So I'm building a small community of branding freaks. You don't have to love tacos. You could be into old fashions like Bill Petrie. You could be into, IPA beers like Marshall, whatever. But the thing is, I want to try to help our industry get better at this, one small step at a time. So I created a website. You can join us. I've got a monthly newsletter. It's free. You can join that. You can download the overview. That's free. But what I am going to offer is an actual 50-plus page style guide with 9 steps. And at every step, there is a worksheet that's going to ask you a series of questions, sometimes as many as 10 or 12, sometimes as many as a whole page, like 30, 40 questions to consider. There's no right or wrong answer. There's only you working through the process. And so you can go to jbusselle.com. Or you could go to Marshall's website soon. He's gonna be, I hope, an affiliate marketer, and
already signed up.
Already signed up. So the truth is, use Marshall's promo code because it'll save you a few dollars. But it's a chance for you to work on your craft as a marketer and a brander, and focus in on some really important questions that are going to pay big dividends in the long term. So that's what it is. I call it your style guide, as if I showed up, was recently hired, I'm your highest unpaid consultant, and I came in and knocked on your door and said, okay, Marshall, show me your style guide. And you would cough and sputter and what? So that's why I decided to title it Your Style Guide, because it should be something that it's yours, that you work on, and you visit. And you check it out and polish it up. And, every year, okay, let's look at these 9 steps again. So that's it. That's my yourstyleguide.com, available at jbusselle.com. Check it out. I think you'll get a lot of value.
Okay. And that's it. So we got, Carolyn says, email sent to you, Jay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So I think that's going to do it today, folks. So thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your time. And please like or share this video with other people that you think might have enjoyed what we presented today, because we recognize the fact that, some people are actually working while we're doing this, right? And so please help us out. We want to get the word out. And so that's it. So for me, Marshall Atkinson, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And Jay, you can say goodbye too.
Oh, and for me, Jay Busselle, eat more tacos and check out my style guide. And thank you, Marshall. Appreciate you pulling this together. It was awesome. I'm grateful to be a part of this. You know, your network are the people, I consider them hungry. They're working on it. They're working on their craft. They're listening to you, and that's a good thing.
Yes, and don't forget, Jay will be a presenter at Shirt Lab Dallas next year.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll check you guys later. Bye.